At the start of every live chat, I like to remind people that this case is about Abby and Libby and getting justice for them, and also for their families, and also for Richard Allen to get a fair trial, and for his family to finally find out the truth, whether or not he was Bridge Guy. For anybody who's new, here's a quick overview about my chats. In the chat box, I put on slow mode for 15 seconds between messages to cut down on spam. All types of opinions are welcome. Just be polite, or moderators will ban anyone being rude or commenting negatively about people instead of chatting about facts about the case. Click the name of an annoying person in the chat to block them. Type the @ symbol plus the first few letters of someone's screen name to reply directly to that chatter, but your messages will be public. By typing the @ symbol, that person will see their name in orange in your message so they know it is directed at them. If I don't highlight your comment, it does not mean I disagree with or dislike you. I never see hundreds of comments, which is probably for the best. Ha! In the top of the chat box, it defaults to show top chat, but you can click that to change it to live chat to see every single comment. I try not to curse, but can't promise anything. I look through the chat and highlight comments that people might find interesting, but I do not highlight comments that have curses in them. Some of the initials I use in my PowerPoint slides are AB is Andrew Baldwin, the defense attorney. B/R is Baldwin and Rosie. LE is for law enforcement. MW is Mitch Westerman. NM is prosecutor Nick McClelland. And PP is the Purdue professor who provided an opinion on the Odinism angle. Some people do not follow every single thing that happens in this case, so I do these live chats where I summarize all the legal filings that happened over the prior week or so since my last live chat. Today, I have about 20 PowerPoint slides summarizing the legal filings from the past week. On April 8th, the defense had 3 different filings. Notice of exclusion of confidential information from public access. Wonder what that could be. Ex parte motion to reconsider funds for tech experts and also funds for administrative assistants. And the third one was a proposed order on ex parte motion to reconsider funds for tech experts and also funds for administrative assistants. The summary was not available because they were ex parte, which means it's not publicly available. I wrote down at the bottom, Judge Gull still has not ruled publicly on the March 18th defense request for parity in resources and funding. The next day, on April 9th, also by the defense, there were 3 filings. Notice of exclusion of confidential information from public access. What are they up to? Ex parte motion and ex parte order. Again, there's no summary because it was private. On Wednesday, April 11th, motion to suppress statements filed by the defense. The summary is Baldwin and Rosie want Judge Gull to have a hearing to suppress all oral and written communications, confessions, statements, or admissions alleged to have been made by Rick during his pretrial detention because it is alleged that Rick communicated incriminating statements to state actors and or their agents, which prosecutor Nick McClelland will present at the trial. The statements were involuntary and thus obtained in violation of the 5th, 6th, and 14th Amendments of the United States Constitution and Article 1, Sections 12, 13, and 14 of the Indiana Constitution. The statements were a result of psychological and mental coercion illegally directed against Rick, and such statements were therefore involuntarily given. I wrote, what about Rick picking up his tablet and making admissions to his wife and mom on April 3rd? So that filing was fairly short, but the defense also filed a memorandum of law in support of Defendant Allen's motion to suppress, which was basically the same thing but with more context and examples. So this was 11 pages, and I summarized it into quite a few PowerPoint slides because there was a lot of interesting information. Again, this was filed by Baldwin and Rosie. It started by saying that on November 3rd, 2023, which Rosie wrote this, and it's not 2023, it was 2022 when Rick was arrested. So November 3rd, 2022, without a hearing or Rick having an attorney, Judge Diener approved the safekeeping order, and Rick went to Westville Prison for 13 months and was the first pretrial inmate ever in that Indiana prison instead of going to a county jail, which most people go to as they await their trial. And once they're convicted, they go to a prison. Obviously, we know that Baldwin and Rosie have been saying for about a year, Rick should be in a county jail and not a prison. Baldwin and Rosie have done the following: conducted depositions, watched Westville video of Rick in his cell and other video in Westville, reviewed Rick's prison records, including medical and psychiatric, and listened to audio interviews of inmates and guards conducted by law enforcement. Just a reminder that Rick's cell in the prison is under 24-hour video surveillance, but not with audio. Baldwin and Rosie learned that Rick has been accused of making incriminating statements to inmates and guards, nearly all of which occurred between mid-March to June of 2023. During this time, there also exists medical and psychiatric records suggesting Rick was in a state of psychosis. I added at the top, April 5th, 2023, Baldwin and Rosie wrote they gave Rick 1,000 pages of police reports on March 24th, 2023, and they said he was fine mentally that day. So, when and who performed a psychiatric evaluation determining psychosis if on April 14th, 2023, 3 mental health professionals at Westville evaluated Rick and said he did not need involuntary medication or to be transferred to another facility, including possibly a mental health facility. So April 5th, 2023 was the defense's emergency motion to modify safekeeping order. Quote, as recently as Friday, April 24th, 2023, again, this was a Baldwin and Rosie error. It should have been March 24th because this was filed April 5th before April 24th. Attorney Andrew Baldwin met with Mr. Allen with optimistic news about the direction of the case, and Mr. Allen was inquisitive about the information, was thankful about the information, and optimistic about the information. Only 10 days later, April 3rd, 2023, attorneys for Mr. Allen observed a steep decline in Mr. Allen's demeanor, ability to communicate, ability to comprehend, and ability to assist in his defense. Simply put, this version of Richard Allen was a very different version than counsel for Mr. Allen had interacted with over the past 5 months. So Baldwin and Rosie were assigned November 14th, 2022, and they're saying in early April is when they noticed a mental change. Mr. Allen appeared to be suffering from various psychotic symptoms which counsel would describe as schizophrenic and delusional. Counsel further believes that in our April 4th, 2023 interaction, Mr. Allen seems to be suffering from memory loss and is demonstrating an overall inability to communicate rationally with counsel and family members. Counsel experienced these symptoms firsthand upon visiting Mr. Allen on Monday, April 4th, 2023. I wrote here again that the defense made an error. Monday was April 3rd, and the Franks memo said the intern and investigator met Rick on that day. So was Rick acting odd from the second he met with them on April 3rd? What did they talk about, and what evidence was presented to him on April 3rd that may have caused him to go back to his cell and confess to his wife and mom? Or was that phone call before he met with the intern and investigator? That has not been revealed yet. What do his family phone calls and his cell video show on April 1st, 2nd, 3rd, and 4th that would indicate he had a decline with mental issues? At which point did Rick's mom and wife say in phone calls that Rick was acting abnormal? I added here, Baldwin and Rosie said Rick was okay mentally the first 5 months in solitary. In this filing, they said he started making incriminating statements to guards and inmates in mid-March 2023, but April 5th, 2023, they said he was fine mentally on March 24th, 2023, and did not act different until April 3rd when the defense intern and investigator met with Rick. In the first Franks memo, September 18th, 2023, Baldwin and Rosie came up with that fake quote insinuating the Odinist guards threatened Rick to call his wife and confess or his family would be killed. Did those guards also threaten him to possibly confess to guards, inmates, the warden, mental and medical health professionals over a 3-month period? The number of people Rick made incriminating statements to and the timing of suddenly happening after 5 months and for occurring over a 3-month period is suspicious to me, as well as Baldwin and Rosie's changing explanations as to Rick's statements and mental health status. If he is not of sound mind, how did he sign a statement about wanting Baldwin and Rosie to be his attorneys? Back to Baldwin and Rosie, who are talking about the companions due to Rick's suicide watch who would stay outside of his cell just to watch him and make sure he did not kill himself. Inmates were posted outside Rick's cell and were required to keep logs of, quote, all of Allen's actions, statements, and behaviors, end quote, over the course of much of his time at Westville. The inmates/convicted felons talked with Rick. In early April 2023, Westville replaced the inmates with guards because inmates were talking to Rick about his case and then telling their families what he said, quote, thereby violating any sense of confidentiality that might exist within the walls of the penitentiary, end quote. Tom said, Two inmates talking is confidential? Baldwin Rosie continued, Rick's living conditions are harsh compared to the worst convicted offenders, and included his cell, which was designated for inmates with suicidal thoughts, and which was surrounded by 60 inmates who could yell at him day and night, including calling him a baby killer and other similar accusations, according to a corrections officer. I added that inmates at a county jail would yell the same things at Rick, but inmates in a county jail may be physically closer to Rick when doing so. Rick was on suicide watch for the majority of his time at Westville since the beginning, according to a November 3, 2022 mental health order. But there were no underlying findings that he was suicidal, according to Baldwin Rosie. That suicidal designation made his conditions worse, such as a bed with a metal plate and thin mattress, an anti-suicide smock, quote, which covered his body no better than that of the garment of a caveman, end quote. No table or chair, no toilet privacy, lights on for many days and nights, and less recreation and shower time. These factors led to the deterioration of Rick's mental and physical health as he was deprived of any social interaction. I wrote, well, what about social interaction with the companions? Baldwin Rosie wrote that he also had very little to no privacy, limited recreation time, and was left to entertain himself. I wrote that Rick did have a tablet with access to music and movies that other prisoners do not have. Apparently he broke a tablet, but the circumstances of why and how are not known publicly. But the prison replaced it for free. As I was reading this, I noticed this difference. So on April 5th, 2023, Baldwin Rosie wrote, Mr. Allens has been entombed in a cell as small as a 6 feet in width by 10 feet in width length, a space no larger than that of a dog kennel. A year later, April 11th, 2024, Baldwin Rosie wrote, Whenever Allen was removed from the confines of his 12 by 8 steel and concrete box, aka a cell, so those dimensions are different. Oh. And at the June 15th, 2023 hearing, Judge Gull and the warden said the April 5th dimensions were wrong and possibly a flat-out lie by Baldwin Rosie. But if you remember, Baldwin Rosie wanted to take a tape measure into his cell in the segregation unit, and the prison was like, yeah, I don't think so. Back to Baldwin Rosie. When outside his cell, he is shackled with ankle cuffs, a belly chain, box cuffs on his hands, and guided around by guards with a lead, which the defense called a leash. All of his movements are videotaped, including some attorney meetings, but there is no audio on those. In the ever-changing debate about Rick's height and weight, this filing said that on November 8th, 2022, soon after he arrived at Westville, the intake record said Rick is 5 foot 5 inches tall, 173 pounds. April 2023, the defense said he was below 135 pounds, so he lost about 40 pounds in about 5 months. So he lost about 8 pounds per month for 5 months. I looked online, and the average weight for somebody 5 foot 5 is about 114 to 149 pounds. So he is about in the middle of that range. August 3rd, 2023, it said he weighed 130. I think the last time Rick was in court about a month ago, people said that he did appear to have gained some weight. Rick's shackles were removed to meet his wife after they had not seen each other, quote, for the better part of 6 months, end quote. And there was no privacy because the room was empty. They were denied water during the visit. I added here that if they had other inmates in that meeting room, along with their families, all eyes and ears would have been on Rick and his wife. So is that a situation that Rick and his wife would want? Or the defense would want somebody sitting next to them and overhearing what they said, and then telling it on the internet? Baldwin Rosie continued, police looked into Odinist suspects, and at least 2 guards at Westville were affiliated with Odinism. Quote, one of these guards tased Allen after he was placed into his secure 8x12 cell because Allen refused to remove his hands from the cuff port in the door of his cell, end quote. So I went back to the September 18th, 2023 verified motion for immediate transfer of custody filed by the defense, in which the defense wrote, videos show interactions between guards and Rick in May 2023, when a guard warned Rick he will be tased if he does not remove his hands from the cuff port in the door of his cell. Rick did not comply, so the guard deployed his taser to Rick's hands. No, quote, use of force checkoff sheet, end quote, was completed as it appeared the guards did not believe Rick was struck with the taser. Baldwin Rosie said, quote, The issue of whether or not he was struck by the taser is of no consequence, end quote. My reaction to that is, yes, I don't think somebody in a cell who's 5'5" is a danger to a guard. However, why is this 50-year-old man, Rick, not capable of following simple instructions? The guard said, put your hands inside your cell, or I'm going to tase you. Rick does not follow the orders, and can you really complain that you have to suffer the consequences of something you knew you were not supposed to be doing? Next, back to Bald and Rosie from this latest filing. Rick battled depression most of his adult life using medication and therapeutic resources, but Indiana Department of Corrections gave little consideration to this in November 2022 when he arrived at Westville and, quote, it is also believed that Allen's medications were administered in a less than consistent fashion, end quote, while he was at Westville, which contributed to his inability to endure his living environment. So I added this part. In 2023, April 5th, Bald and Rosie said Rick was okay mentally for the first 5 months. 15 days later, McClellan filed a motion for leave of court to subpoena third-party records, stating that Rick was evaluated on April 14th by 2 psychiatrists and 1 psychologist, quote, to discuss his turn in behavior and a need for involuntary medication. It was determined Rick did not need involuntary medication or to be moved to another facility. Since that meeting, Rick began to eat and sleep. Behavior began to return to what it was prior to making the admission on April 3rd, end quote. In 2024, Bald and Rosie stated Rick made incriminating statements mid-March through June 2023. So I think we're going to have to wait for the trial to see if this stuff is really adding up or not, because some of this stuff does not add up to me. Bald and Rosie said, the issue is whether the state violated Rick's 5th and 6th Amendment rights and federal and state due process rights by detaining him in solitary confinement in a maximum security prison segregation unit while he was awaiting trial. Allen's statements were involuntary and should be suppressed. I wrote, what was the alternative to being alone in a cell in Westville? I've never seen anyone provide the perfect solution for which county jail Rick should be kept at and what level of interaction he should have with other inmates. There's no way Rick would meet inmates at a county jail and they would become great friends and his mental health would improve. Let's be real. Just like Westville, inmates would be asking him if he killed Abby and Libby. That's not good for his mental health, whether he is innocent or guilty. Also, he's around 5'5" tall and would be surrounded by inmates who don't know how to follow the laws or rules and may be violent offenders. It is unlikely someone in county jail for driving while intoxicated or spousal abuse would add a murder charge just to kill Rick, but that does not mean an inmate would never try to physically assault Rick. Do people who believe Rick is 100% innocent want to subject him to that mental and physical abuse at a county jail? I don't. Due to this high-profile case, I think Rick has to be alone in a cell, either at a county jail or a prison. I think he should be at Cass County Jail, which is very close to Rosie's office, but the sheriff said previously that the cell is smaller than Westville, and Rick's quote-unquote privileges would be less than prison, especially if he makes suicidal comments. For anybody who is yelling at their TV, like some lady said her husband yelled at the TV once, when I said that Rick would be in general population in a county jail. I've never been arrested. I've never been in a county jail. So if I misstated Rick's interaction with county jail inmates and people of different levels of crimes that they're being accused of, feel free to politely educate me in the comments below. At this point in the filing, Bald and Rosie listed the rule and analysis to make their point. Coercive police activity is a necessary predicate to finding that a confession is involuntary within the meaning of the Due Process Clause. However, coercive police activity is not a necessary prerequisite to challenge the voluntariness of a defendant's statement under Article 1, Section 14 of the Indiana Constitution, as there may be other elements supporting a finding of involuntariness. The proper standard under the Indiana Constitution is whether the confession was, quote, freely self-determined and the product of a rational intellect and free will, end quote. Courts look to the state versus totality of the circumstances to determine if the confession was voluntary, taking into account the following, which I'm going to say yes or no if I think it applies to Rick and his situation. Number 1, whether the statement was made under a court order, no. 2, use of police trickery, no. 3, threats or promises by police, no. 4, defendant's race, age, or disability, no. 5. Length of detention. At the bottom, I wrote possibly for number 5. Rick had been in a cell for 4.5 to 5 months before he made incriminating statements. However, his attorney stated he was okay mentally for those first 5 months, potentially including March 24th and prior when he made incriminating statements. Number 6, physical coercion. I said no. Or number 7, illegal police practices. I said no to that one also. However, below that I wrote, which applies to Rick, no for all of those. Some people might say that physical coercion includes Rick being in his cell, or illegal police practices include some stuff that happened at Westville. But I truly believe Rick was kept in Westville for his physical safety from inmates and from himself. Did somebody just scream at their TV? Next up was analysis by the legendary artists of the Frank's Memo trifecta, Balder and Rosie. They said, it is indisputable. Rick's detention circumstances were manufactured by the Carroll County Sheriff, the legendary Tobe Lesenby, purposefully, and without the existence of any sense of due process. And as the legendary Judge Diener, who essentially stated, you people are all crazy and I want nothing to do with this Delphi murder case and find another judge. So Diener signed the safekeeping order without requiring the state to establish the burden of proof, which was required by the statute. I agree there should have been a hearing with Balder and Rosie, but they did not request a transfer until almost 5 months after they started representing Rick, although Rosie did say at one point he spoke to the Cass County Sheriff in February. At the June 15th, 2023 hearing, Gull stated the defense evidence did not support their claims, and Gull felt that Rick needed to be protected from other inmates. Also, Tobe Lesenby knew that the Carroll County Jail was a disaster structurally. It was overcrowded and understaffed. For anybody who does not know, a new jail in Carroll County should be completed by the end of 2024. Also, Tobe Lesenby knew all the crazy attention this case had garnered for 5 years and did not know what would happen if Rick was housed there. Part of the safekeeping order is to protect this 5'5" man from being assaulted or killed by other inmates. If Rick got murdered or assaulted in jail, people would complain that Lesenby failed to protect Rick from obvious danger. Back to Balder and Rosie. Companions outside Rick's cell reported all his moves and words, which was similar to a case, Messiah versus United States from 60 years ago in 1964, where police obtained incriminating statements from a jailhouse informant who the defendant revealed incriminating info to when his attorney was not present. The court held this was improper and suppressed the statements. Rick's free will was overcome by the forces of his environment, all of which were placed upon him by the government and its actors. He was isolated from any sense of meaningful human contact, with recreation time not to exceed 4 hours per week. His medications were adjusted by the prison medical team, the combination of which factors reduced him to nothing more than a human experiment. Allen's free will was overcome. I wrote here, why didn't Rick tell Westville doctors in November 2022 when he arrived the exact medication and amount he was taking so he could continue taking whatever mental health medication he was taking before he got arrested? Balder and Rosie said, under the U.S. Constitution, the prosecution only has to prove by a preponderance of the evidence that the confession was voluntary, but the federal courts have a history of regulating the admission of confessions that have been a product of state action that exploits the weak and compromised through interrogatory and custodial processes. Balder and Rosie next referenced a case where the defendant was released from the military because he suffered from psychosis, and then he committed a crime and signed a written statement after 8 to 10 hours of interrogation. And I wrote, this has no relevance to Rick possibly murdering Abby and Libby and then calling his wife from his cell 5 months after his police interview. Does the April 3rd video show guards outside his cell forcing him to make the call to his wife? Balder and Rosie said Rick endured a form of interrogation that lasted more than 5 months before he was finally broken. Already suffering from a mental health disorder, and then having been cut off from the moral support of his wife, mother, and daughter, Rick was weakened to the point where he slipped into a state of psychosis plagued with grossly disorganized, delusional, paranoid, and highly dysfunctional behavior. I added that on April 20th, 2023, McClellan said that Rick had been making up to 2 phone calls a day to his family. So how did he not have the support of his wife and mom if he allegedly called them to confess? Between his admission on April 3rd and the April 20th filing, Rick did not have any contact with his family for at least 17 days. Why? Was it because he intentionally broke his tablet after his wife abruptly hung up? We'll obviously see that video at the trial. Or was the tablet working and Rick did not initiate a call to his family? Why? Baldwin and Rosie continued, these behaviors were manifested through verbal confessions that he may have been drugged, verbal confessions to the double homicide, which were inconsistent with known facts about the crime scene, periods of not sleeping for days, paranoia, stripping off his clothes, drinking toilet water, covering himself with and eating his own feces, and many other socially unacceptable behaviors. Obviously, something's not right. Whatever the cause of it is, we'll have to wait to the trial to hear from everybody's perspective. The defense admitted that one time Rick, quote-unquote, confessed to, quote, molesting those two young girls and shooting them in the back, end quote. That was from a statement of an inmate companion. Another time, he professed his sorrow for molesting Abby, Libby, and others which he specifically named. That was from a statement of a guard. So what's that all about? And who are these other people that he's saying he molested? Baldwin and Rosie said that Rick's statements are false because molestation was not found in the autopsies. But I wonder, what did Rick say that was true in all of his other confessions? Baldwin and Rosie possibly left out anything that makes Rick look guilty. Like in the Franks memo, they left out the 127 video of a car that looks like Rick. They left out these 3 to 4 girls around 1:30 who said they passed a man who looked kind of like Rick. And they made no mention of the 2:10 and 2:28 p.m. drivers who saw a car at CPS that did not match the 1960s car, who they were trying to make it look like it could not have been Rick at CPS because he did not own a car from the 1960s. Moving along, inmate companions by the names of Lacey Patton Jr. and Jason Elliott told their relatives about Rick's confessions. Proof of these leaks were offered up by the state in the form of audio interviews. Baldwin and Rosie are not aware of any self-reporting of said leaks by the state, who were aware of this information as early as May 12, 2023, when Patton and Elliott were interviewed by law enforcement. Rick's due process rights have been all but ignored. When I read that, I was like, well, which law states that inmates cannot tell their relatives what another inmate told them? The defense did not reference any law. The 14th Amendment forbids fundamental unfairness in the use of evidence, whether true or false. There are considerations that transcend the question of guilt or innocence. In cases involving involuntary confessions, this court enforces the strongly felt attitude of our society that important human values are sacrificed when an agency of the government, in the course of securing a conviction, wrings a confession out of an accused against his will. Quote, the truth or falsity of Allen's statements are of no consequence to this analysis. Allen has been treated unlike any other pretrial detainee in Indiana in recent history. The methodology employed by the justice system is one of first impression, and therefore, the circumstances created by this methodology should not be part of any consideration of Allen's guilt or innocence. The system of pretrial detention employed against Allen runs afoul of the Fifth and Sixth Amendments of the U.S. Constitution and Article 1, Section 14 of the Indiana Constitution. It is for these reasons any and all incriminating statements made by Allen while incarcerated should be suppressed, end quote. So I wrote, what about all statements he has made while incarcerated? If his mental health is bad, how can any statement be trusted, whether good or bad? So that was the end of that filing, and I have this end part here. So did Rick make incriminating statements to at least 8 people over a 3-month period? There's been rumors about his wife and mother. In this filing, it referenced at least 2 companions and inmates. There have been other rumors about him talking to mental health and medical professionals. This filing said at least 1 guard said he made incriminating statements. There's also been rumors that Rick wrote to the warden of Westville and made incriminating statements. What facts did Baldwin and Rosie leave out about the other incriminating statements that were not false? McClelland will likely file a response with some more details, hopefully next week or so, but maybe not with exact quotes of what Rick has said that shows that maybe he's more guilty than innocent. I think all the people he made statements to should be allowed to testify so the jury knows what the defendant has said if he has admitted to almost 10 people that he was involved in the crime he's charged with. But the defense can ask all these people how Rick's mental health appeared that day compared to other days, as well as Dr. Westcott with her professional opinion, although she interviewed Rick a year after these incriminating statements started. Also on April 11th, motion for leave of court to conduct inmate depositions filed by the defense. Balder and Rosie want to interview Westville inmate Jesse James on April 18th at a nearby county sheriff's location. McClelland will have Westville correctional officers and inmates testify at the trial. I added here that on April 12th, Gull approved this. The defense tried it and Gull finally approved it. Also on April 12th, a notice of mailing of transcript filed by the court, which was from the March 18th contempt hearing. Finally, on March 12th, correspondence to from court, filed letter received from the Journal and Courier. I forgot a period. Oh, I can't forget a period. Correspondence to and from court filed letter received from the Journal and Courier, filed by the court. The summary is the Lafayette Journal and Courier is a newspaper that requested a copy of the questionnaire that was mailed to the 600 potential jurors in Allen County. That's it for the summary of this week's filings, and now I'll get to your comments in the chat. I'm already 30 minutes. Hi, everybody. I was muted for a second there. Welcome to everybody around the world. I have my Italia sweatshirt on. Today's background is in honor of Małgorzata from Poland and also Bosnia. This is not pronounced Wrocław. I think it's Wrocław, something like that. Anyway, welcome to everybody around the world. We're at 31 minutes. I'll probably go to like an hour and 59 minutes. Here we go. Juicy Jules. He confessed wifey on jail phone, correct? We're still waiting for the exact transcript. And also, I think it's very important to hear, especially now with these claims with Walden and Rosie saying that Rick, let me make sure you guys can hear me. Can you hear me? Yeah, we can hear you. All right, thank you. That's probably worse than not hearing me. All right. Rick's, like, just his tone of voice. And as I said in this presentation, what did he sound like in the days and weeks leading up to April 3rd? Did his wife and mom ever say, Rick, you're not making sense? Maybe they did say that. So my new phrase is stay tuned and wait for the trial to hopefully find out. I've been hoping that McClelland in one of his filings would include exact words, at least from at least the April 3rd phone call. I believe McClelland this week may file an answer to this motion to suppress these confessions. Will he give us any more details about his perspective on these quote unquote confessions? Will we finally get some kind of quotes? I doubt it, but I would really appreciate reading the entire April 3rd phone call to his wife and his mom. But I think McClelland is the type who is holding this stuff until the trial, which some people don't think is going to happen. Let's see what we have here. I'm going through all the hi Toms. Hi, everybody around the world. Hi, Angie. Thank you for your kindness. And anybody, oh yeah, I forgot. Miss Dog Lover. Hi, and happy birthday. I will not be singing it, but thank you. I always appreciate your kindness, and hello to you and your dog or dogs. I only see one dog in your picture. Uh-oh, Małgorzata. I don't know what that is in Polish, but thank you so much for staying up late always to join my live chats. Maybe one time I'll do one in the morning, your time. Let me know what works for you. Yeah, I asked this to DNA King. I think he left after he said howdy, because we want to know this, or I've seen a few people ask this. Would a defense attorney tell their, oh, this is from Tom Webster. He's so annoying. Would a defense attorney tell their client to act more crazy? People are wondering if Balder and Rosie told Rick to do that. Thanks. I don't think he ever answered me. Is anybody here a defense attorney or have experience? After Rick made this April 3rd phone call, would it be ethical or a strategy for Balder and Rosie to tell Rick, if you want to be found not guilty, you may have to make more confessions, but not include information that does not make sense? I have no experience with that. Hi, Paul. Where is the petition for Rick's expert witnesses fund and getting Mr. Deny off the case due to bias? Who's Mr. Deny? I don't know who that is. Who could it be? Where is the petition for Rick's expert witnesses fund? Well, I don't know if you're talking about that online donation thing that was out about $30,000. The defense at some point did an ex parte request. They've done a few. And one of them, I think, was about public funding, which may have been informing Judge Gull about this online donations that they're requesting for expert witnesses, which I believe if the prosecution is going to have an expert say whatever for Rick's mental health, DNA, the unspent cartridge found near the bodies, anything, the defense should absolutely have an expert to, I know I shouldn't have worn this sweatshirt. Oh, the defense should have somebody else. It's all crooked. I can't be crooked. The defense should have somebody who could like go against whatever the prosecution is saying. I mean, I think that's only fair for the jury to hear all sides, not just one. So I don't know. The first six filings from this week by the defense seem to have to do with funding. So they're going back to Judge Gull asking for more money. What's going to happen if she says, okay, yes, you properly filed at this time. It is supported. What happens to that $30,000 that people have donated? What, did somebody just say David Hennessy is going to the bar? Hi, Deides. Well, defense needs a fund for a proofreader. Yeah, well, McLean makes mistakes too, and Auntie Gull does sometimes too. Hi, Tea and Biscuits. You're welcome. Thank you for the update and not just taking the defense filing at face value. I just give my opinion on all this stuff. I'm not trying to change anybody's mind, and I'm not acting like I know anything. I say I don't know repeatedly. Hi, Sparky. So Rick suddenly went crazy after meeting with his attorneys and started eating paper immediately after the visit. Weird. I wonder what was said that day. Yeah, I don't think that the intern or the investigator will reveal anything at the trial. They might keep that as like attorney-client privilege or something. It is suspicious to me that even Baldwin Rosie said for the first 5 months alone in a cell at Westville, he was okay mentally, including March 24th. But then this week they said he may have made incriminating statements starting in mid-March. So that was before they said he went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I don't know. We'll see. Or will we? I don't know. Hi, Connie. More barbecue sauce to stall this trial. Why? The families have endured enough. I know that doesn't mean barbecue sauce. I said that in yesterday's member chat. I'm not going to say a curse. Yeah, I mean, the families have endured a lot, and Rick is enduring a lot. Maybe he is truly innocent, and hopefully we're going to get to some facts in 4 weeks. So 4 weeks from tomorrow is jury selection. Yesterday I searched, what did I search? Something about Indiana jury selection. I learned a few things. Let's see what I remember. Jurors can take notes when they're during the trial, but it cannot take their attention away from the testimony that's being given. The jury can also ask questions of the witnesses if they write them down. I'm not sure if it's the same day or if it's after they're deliberating. If they say, well, I have questions about this certain thing, let's get this one witness back on the stand and ask this question. What else did I learn? So it needs to be unanimous. All 12 people need to say either Rick is not guilty or Rick is guilty. Hello, sorry. Time for a Taco Bell cup. Oh. I don't know a lot. I don't watch any of this stuff. So if I'm stating wrong facts, please correct me. I'm no problem with that. 12 people have to say Rick is either not guilty or guilty. if one of those people cannot come to the same conclusion as the other 11 people, it's considered a hung jury and it might be considered a mistrial. The prosecutor can do two things, or three maybe. He can dismiss the case with prejudice or without prejudice. I don't know which is which, but one means that the defendant can never be tried for the same thing, and one means the defendant can be tried for the same thing. Another thing is maybe just to dismiss it and move on. Or I think maybe the fourth option is to try and lower the charges to a lesser degree. Fifth option may be a plea deal with like something that would maybe make the defendant say, yes, I'm guilty and I will agree to it. Hi, Renew. Crazy how different Rick's experience is from Brian Koberger's, who's the guy who killed apparently 4 college students in Idaho. Yeah, I mean, he obviously, I haven't really paid attention to that other than the PCA, which I think Brian Koberger is a piece of crap, that Rick should eat him. What else? Brian Koberger walks into court in a suit, and people say, well, Rick has never worn a suit to court. Why is that? I don't know the answer. Some people said maybe Bald and Rosie want Rick to be seen as somebody who is not in a suit and all cleaned up, and to be looking like somebody who's defeated and being abused by Indiana Department of Corrections. We'll see what happens at the trial. He obviously lost a lot of weight. I don't know if his prior suits would even fit. So we'll see. Aloha. Mahalo. Hi, JMS. What are you cooking? I do not believe anything from this defense. Well, it seems like almost every time they file something, McClelland will file a response with his thoughts on what they said. Hi, Unsilent Bob, 420. Going off beer and junk food diet will do wonders for your waist, Rick. Yes, well, we've seen Kegenkline, and he looked like he gained weight. So after like over a year in prison, so obviously different people react in different ways. Rick, not to be rude, but he could have stood to lose a few pounds when he was arrested. So, I mean, I looked online, and he is in the middle of the weight range for his height. I don't know what to say. I don't know the situation, so I'm just saying basic stuff. I could have sworn, I'll talk about this one more time. Hi, Easton. Don't forget, Rick was 173 pounds soaking wet. I hope, there's some interesting language in this recent filing. I hope they gave him a towel after they weighed him. I could have swore that Labredo, the temporary public defender from like last January, said Rick was over 200 pounds at one time while he was in incarceration or when he was arrested. But I was looking for Labredo's TV interviews, and I did not see that reference in the court TV interview, although he did one other like webcam interview that I could not find. So I'm not sure if in that one he said Rick was 200 pounds. But Labredo is the former public defender who worked with Rick for, I don't know, 3 months. He said he believes Rick is not involved at all, and he 100% believes that Rick is innocent and one of the girls was sacrificed. What did he see that makes him think that? Is he helping the defense for free or in his spare time, if he believes in Rick's innocence so much? While the defense is saying we're struggling here. Hi, Tina. The fact they are messing with medications, makes me question anything Rick said. Again, this is just the position of the defense. We always have to wait to hear what McClelland is going to say based on his interactions with Department of Corrections. And some people say Well, they're all a bunch of corrupt people, so you can't trust them either. I just don't understand how this guy, Richard Allen, is 50 years old when he goes to Westville and gets arrested. It's been said that he suffered from depression for most of his adult life. So 20 to 50 is 30 years. He's suffering from depression. He works at CVS, and I think he has some training for certified pharmacy tech. I'm not sure if that's his certificate or what, but you would think when he went to prison, Westville, and said, if they asked, "Are you on any medication?" would he not know? I take this for depression. This is the amount I take. I think we have to wait and see what other people say other than just the defense. Drew, beefy, thank you, but I try not to highlight curse words, but I'll do it real quick. But thank you. Not a Richard Allen simp. Thank you also for your generosity and sharing your thoughts. High Sleuth Intuition. Did they say Rick mentioned other victims? Yeah, so apparently he told somebody that he molested other victims and named them. So what has the defense or prosecution or law enforcement done to find out if those names that he said truly were real people? And did Rick molest them? Is it true? Will that show that Rick has a history of being attracted to teenage girls or something? We'll see. Or will we? I don't know. It seems odd that he would even say that. It seems odd that he said he shot Abby and Libby in the back and that he molested them when he did not. But as I said, it's only almost like maybe 8 to 10 different people who Rick made these incriminating statements to. And the defense only chose to include facts that did not add up from a few of those interactions. Which interactions maybe included facts that were true? Wait for the trial. Hi, Red Sauce. The horrible prison treatment of Rick has already been debunked in court. At the June 15th hearing, yes, the warden kind of went against like 6 to 7 quote unquote accusations and facts from the April 5th emergency motion to modify safekeeping order. Is the defense having another go at it? Well, some people are saying, is this like one of the last things that the defense is doing before they maybe say, Rick, you need to do a plea deal? I'm not expecting a plea deal, but I'm an idiot, so who knows? We'll see what Judge Gull says if she's going to suppress all these statements. The defense tried it. Gull will probably deny it. Yeah, so it's going to be interesting. Also, we're waiting on Judge Gull. By the end of April, she's supposed to rule on this contempt charges against Bald and Rosie. She better not like take them off the case to delay this stuff further. We'll see. But I mean, McClelland has like he read those ex parte motions when he should not. So shouldn't he be also fined or something for not following the rules or whatever? Hi, She Elf. Was he a heavy drinker and on psych medications? Not a good idea. The only real indication we've had that Rick was a heavy drinker is, I think it was July 2015. His wife, at night, she called police because she was concerned about Rick. I don't know if some people maybe said that there was some kind of domestic abuse there. I've not seen any of that. That was not in the police report because actually the police report, I tried to get it and the police called, but Tom tried it, they denied it. It was just like Rick went to a hospital at night for drinking too much. So that's the only real clue that we've had that Rick may have had a drinking problem. I think somebody who worked with him allegedly on Reddit or something did a Q&A and said there were talks about Rick maybe going to alcohol rehab at some point. Again, a lot of rumors. Wait for the trial, hopefully for facts. JMS, they're keeping Rick under lock and key because he will kill himself the first chance he gets. Well, as I said, obviously something seems wrong with Rick's mental health. So, what's going on? I do not think they could just leave him alone in a cell if he's making these comments about hurting himself or just like not making sense whatsoever. Can anybody say where Rick should be housed other than a prison and how much interaction he should have with other inmates? I just don't think there's any good solution where Rick can just like interact with other inmates. There's no way they're going to be like friendly with Rick and he's going to be happy that he has new friends and like interaction. I mean, let's be real. They're going to be saying, "Do you kill those two girls, man?" How is that going to be for his mental health? And even if they don't try to like murder him, is somebody going to try and physically assault him? That's not good either. So either, in my opinion, either he has to be in a cell alone most of the day in a prison or a jail. I'm fine with him going to Cass County right next to Rosie's office, so it's easier for them to communicate and prepare for the trial. Tea and biscuits. Do we think the psych evaluation is really independent when the person is paid for by the defense? Well, hopefully, I mean, this woman, I looked at her qualifications and I doubt she's like not telling the truth. I also doubt that the defense would submit her as a witness if she says something that does not go along with what they're trying to convey to the jury. However, she interviewed Rick on March 30th, or sorry, I think March 31st of this year, which is exactly almost a year after he started acting odd. So how is she really going to make a great evaluation a year later? Like to like deflect from why he called his wife on April 3rd. She Elf wants to know, will we get prison medical records to see what medications he was on / what changed? I'm not sure if McClelland will reveal that in his response to this motion to suppress. I doubt, I don't know, at the trial, are they really going to say he took this exact medication and what happened? I would think that if Rick did confess to medical or mental health professionals at Westville, they would testify at the trial. So maybe the defense or the prosecution would ask them certain things about that. We're at 53 minutes. I'll do another hour and 6. Yeah, so anybody who doesn't know, every Saturday and Sunday for the next 3 weeks or so, up until jury selection, I'm doing these weekend chats at 4:30 Pacific Eastern, like New York City time. Saturdays are members only, which is like 20 people join, so I get to highlight every comment. And Sundays are a free-for-all. Connie says, it's not like he's ever said, quote unquote, "I'm not guilty," but he is believed to be suicidal. Well, technically, he said, "I'm not guilty" when he said he entered his plea not guilty. People have said Rick wrote this letter to, I guess, Judge Diener, the legendary Judge Diener, who said bye. He said, like, "I beg for your mercy. I can't afford a lawyer." He did not say, "I'm innocent. I've been falsely arrested, falsely accused." But I don't know that we can really, I don't know that we can really say just because he did not say that in the letter, that means that he is guilty. But it seems odd to me that somebody even suffering from delusions over a 3-month period, these delusions to like possibly up to 10 people, repeatedly include him saying, "I'm guilty of the crime I'm charged with." Like, I don't know. Let's wait for an expert to testify at the trial. Miranda's friend was in jail and he said they gave that stuff out like candy. What? Medication? Unsilent Bob. Rick was in jail for 6 months while Balder and Rosie twindled twiddled their thumbs researching dumb YouTube channels. If Rick was obviously innocent, they would have gone to trial immediately with his alibi. What is Rick's alibi? There's some new rumor online. Again, it's just a rumor. I've not seen anything corroborating this, because I've always wondered if Rick's car at 127, if that truly is him and this later timeline is true and he was not there noon to 1:30, why did he go by Mears parking lot and Hoosier Harbor Store when the quickest way, there's 2 ways quicker from his house? So did he come to the trails, whether at noon or 1:30, from somewhere else, from his house or somewhere else? So the rumor is that he was at his mother's before that, I guess that morning. That's the only thing I know. Although I know it's just a rumor, and stay tuned for the trial for facts and not just rumors. Yes, thank you to everybody in Europe, and good morning to everybody in Australia. Jordan says, hello, Jordan. My sister has been in jail and has diagnosed psychiatric disorders and actively prescribed medications, and they withheld her medicine for over a week. I know you wrote that like a half hour ago, but what was their reason for withholding her medication? Hi, Sassy Cat. Is the trial being streamed? We're still waiting for Judge Gull to issue some kind of ruling, whether she will allow at least one camera that everybody can like take and show on their YouTube channel. She already denied 3 requests, but that does not mean that she is not going to allow at least one from somewhere. Hi, Travis the lawyer, Esquire. We, lawyers, attorneys, won't get records. We might get a summary of changes in a pleading if they are relevant to something, but records like those are not public, right? Thank you. Ruckus, I believe, worked in a prison at some point. I don't know if he was ever an inmate. I'm kidding. They withhold all medications, even if you bring them in with you until they are verified by your private doctor. So they had to contact Rick's primary care physician or psychiatrist to verify what he was taking. I think Miranda said they gave out Seroquel like candy at prison. Not a Richard Allen Sim says defense isn't even trying anymore. Well, they're trying something. Maybe it's true that Rick is innocent and it's a whole conspiracy and he lost his mind after 5 months. Stay tuned to find out more. Yeah, hi, Star Girl. Hi to your cat also. I guess after a few months, Rick came to the realization he was going to be there forever, maybe. Maybe then he felt he needed to confess. Yeah, some people who think that Rick is 100% innocent really don't seem to take into consideration maybe Rick is guilty and he saw some kind of evidence and he said, I cannot deny this. I have to call my wife and say, I'm guilty. Also, could his deterioration in mental health have something to do with realizing that the next 30 years of his life is going to be spent alone in a jail cell, and he had 5 months realizing that it's a horrible existence? I mean, I'm sure it is a horrible existence to be alone in a cell with lights on. I don't know what the rules are for turning lights off, or if an inmate can even buy like ear plugs from the commissary or whatever, or shades, like eye shades. Sorry, I'm looking for new topics. Ruckus said, look at the verbiage. Quote unquote, he may have been, then a run on sentence that included eating feces. Don't be fooled. Bald and Rosie are coy. Stay tuned for, yeah, I don't know that this trial is going to last 3 weeks. It seems like there's going to be a lot of witnesses, and we'll see. For anybody who does not know, the trial starts, jury selection is when? Monday, May 13th for maybe 3 days. Then it should start Thursday. They're working 9 to 5 every day, including Saturdays. And Auntie Gull believes it's going to be over by May 31st. So maybe 14 actual total days of the trial. Hi, Katja. I'm going to be so pleasantly surprised if the judge is allowing cameras or even audio. Hopefully, we'll at least get audio. Di says, just wish the defense would leave all these arguments for the trial and not for the pregame. Well, it seems like they're trying to get the trial thrown out with all these pre-filings. But I mean, I do agree that they include a lot of stuff publicly that they're just trying to convince Judge Gull, like with the Franks memo. No, they should not have like made it 105 pages before they got to their point. Some of this other stuff, like I know we're all nosy and we want to know facts and stuff, but to convince Judge Gull is their main goal. And obviously, as I've said so many times, they tried it, she denied it. So we'll see what happens with this. Sassy Cat says the family should not have been silenced, in my opinion. So that's the gag order that said the family could not be like giving media interviews. Hi, Anna. Unless Rick gives accurate details, these so-called confessions are no better than false confessions. Well, I'm interested to know why Detective Jerry Holman, in his August 2023 deposition with Baldwin and Rosie, agreed that Rick, his DNA was not found at the crime scene. But Holman said to the attorneys something along the lines of, ask your client, Richard Allen. He is the one who killed Abby and Libby, or the girls. Why does Jerry Holman still think that Rick is the killer? What has he seen that we have not seen yet? Will we know in 4 weeks? Renew, hopefully I'm pronouncing this right, or Renee, sorry. Who were the guards working who forced him to make a confession? That's not true. That was the fake quote that Baldwin and Rosie wrote that ended, I killed those girls. And I've said a few times, did Baldwin and Rosie feel they needed to come up with that fake quote? Because in some kind of conversation, Rick truly did say, I killed those girls. All this will be on camera and easily tracked, correct? Rick's jail cell is under 24-hour video surveillance. And any phone call he makes can be synced up to the video if law enforcement is capable of doing that. I offered my services on a live chat, not privately. Hi, Beth. Richard Allen only started freaking out after he saw the discovery in April 2023. Well, Baldwin said he gave Rick 100 pages of police reports on March 24th. And the next time somebody from his team saw Rick is the day that Rick called his wife and quote unquote confessed or made some kind of statements. As we were just talking about this video evidence of Rick's cell, I'm very interested to know, how often is Rick seen looking at these papers? How is he trying to help his case? How, like, is he looking to see what is going against him, or is he essentially only getting these updates at attorney meetings? Does he look at a piece of paper and, like Beth says, does he freak out on video? Is he pacing back and forth? And then he's like, I have to call my wife after like looking at this piece of paper. I don't know. It's going to be very interesting to see, or I don't know if it's true, but it could be. We'll have to wait and see. Oh my God. Oh. Marge, hi, Marge, in charge. Some people love the attorneys. Some people love Bold and Rosie. Some people hate them. Some people love McClellan. Some people hate him. That has nothing to do with the final outcome, I don't think. Hi, Jay. Hi, Charmaine. All right, I am 35 minutes behind. Let me see what I can do about that. We have 53 more minutes. Hi, living vicariously. I don't know if I'll ever find out if it means in high definition. I don't think so. I think his earliest quote unquote confessionals will be the most reliable. I hope he provided further details to medical staff that will back up factual data related to the crime scene / evidence. Again, we'll have to wait and see and hear at the trial. Hi, understand blue. Thank you. It's only like 12 years old. I got it in Naples, Italy. Hi, Shane. The family bought into law enforcement's plan from very early on. Many times the Patties defended law enforcement and the process. I know. Can you imagine what they're really thinking? They had more patience than me. I would be so upset if I found out that they did not follow up on Rick for 5.5 years and all these other errors. However, if Rick is innocent, then law enforcement not following up on him had no impact on finding Bridge Guy. Anna says before it was said the admissions were something basic like, I am guilty as charged. Historically, there have been false confessions with more substance. Well, I mean, to me, it's like, why does he repeatedly say incriminating stuff about this case and his involvement to a variety of people over 3 months? After the first 5 months in this situation, he was fine mentally. I'd like to hear all these confessions, like as a member of the jury, hear all these confessions, hear testimony from everybody he talked to, and have them say, was it different than their prior interactions with Rick? Was he acting more delusional or psychotic or whatever? Let's hear from experts from both the defense and the prosecution. Hi, Lord F. It's sus. There's not a transcript of the confession. Well, McClellan said there is a transcript, but he has not put the contents in a public filing. I think he's waiting to like reveal it at the trial. Hi, Alec. Yeah, everybody, your taxes are due in America tomorrow. Good luck with that. I did mine in February. Oh my God. Amy replied, I assume because they don't want the transcripts out. I just don't, I know people like, some people don't like McClelland, and law enforcement and the prosecutor have acted shady sometimes. However, I doubt that McClelland would write in a filing that Rick admitted several times on this phone call to his wife that he killed Abby and Libby. Not that he was just bridge guy or involved or kidnapped them and somebody else did it. It said that he killed Abby and Libby. Again, no direct quotes, but obviously it's going to come up at the trial. So it would make McClelland look horrible if he wrote that in a filing and it comes out that the transcripts are like basic saying something where it does not seem obvious that Rick said, yes, I killed Abby and Libby. Stay tuned. Let's see. Hi, Angie Pangie. I have to add that Bald and Rosie found space at Cass County. That is across from just across from Rosie's office, which I have no problem with Rick. Not like my opinion matters for anything. Let me finish your statement. That is across from Rosie. Oh, yeah, Brad Rosie's office. Sorry. Gull snarked, quote, sounds like you were trying to make things better yourself, for yourself, end quote. I mean, I don't blame them. I don't think they should have to drive hours each way to see their client. I know that Wabash Prison has a new video system for clients or inmates and their attorneys. However, I'm sure some people would say, I'm sure the state is watching all those videos. So I'm fine with him going to Cass County. However, the sheriff at Cass County at the June 15th hearing said the cell would be even smaller than Westville. And if Rick is making suicidal comments, he's not going to get any kind of recreation time, or be able to see his family in person. So I don't know. I'm still waiting for somebody to give the perfect suggestion for where Rick should be and how much interaction with other inmates. Hi, N. Nice to see you. Hi, Mary. Wondering if Richard Allen was so miserable he was trying to get into a mental hospital better than jail. I think I've read a few things online where people say mental hospitals are worse than jail or prison. But I mean, I just wonder, I mean, I know that the defense filed this April 5th emergency motion to move Rick out of Westville. But if they were so concerned that he literally was like losing his mind, what were they really doing to get him mental health help for a year? I don't know. That's it. Only temporary. Yeah, the collar. Yeah, I should. Yeah, I'm not taking it off, but okay. Not a Richard Allen simp said. Actually, I'm taking off my Sluther Vandross shirt. Hennessy said, available in my online store. Hennessy said he can't be bothered sending refunds. Okay. Connie, what has happened to the money already raised? I don't know. If you donated, maybe you should ask for an invoice. SP74, why hire Dr. Westcott? Her name is Polly, in case you were wondering. Dr. Westcott a year later. Is it because those actually examining Allen frequently aren't saying what the defense wants to hear? Well, I can understand that they want a variety of opinions and not just people who work at Westville. I don't know what they tried to do for a year after Rick started acting odd to get him seen by somebody else. I'm not sure if there was something in any filing where Baldwin and Rosie were trying to get another like mental health professional to examine Rick. A lot of filings, a lot of facts. I can't remember every single one. Sorry. Don't trigger me, Sparky. I need everything to be perfectly in alignment. Unsilent Bob, it was the prosecution discovery showing they have Rick dead to rights that would drive anyone insane. Well, if the defense is seeing evidence that shows that Rick is guilty, why is Libredo going on TV saying he's 100% innocent? Libredo said that after 3 months, which obviously he did not see all of the discovery, because even after he got removed, the prosecution was still handing over stuff. So stay tuned. Although I want to tune out until after it's over. It's like, just give me a PowerPoint slide of the main things that were revealed at the trial. Angie Pangie says, the same can be said for Judge Gull. She moved hearings to her county, which they were supposed to happen at Carroll County Courthouse. But I think it was maybe so late that it was like kind of an emergency that she moved at least one to her county, but obviously she's had more than one there. She recently said all future hearings will be at Carroll County, possibly other than maybe the first 3 days of jury selection will be at Allen County Courthouse. And then all the jurors will go to a hotel, Motel 6 in Delphi area for a while. I'm not sure where Rick is going to stay, if he's going to be at Carroll County jail or not. I don't know if Rick is guilty or not, but no matter how this turns out, law enforcement and this judge need to be looked at for corruption. Agree. And not just corruption, but not following procedures, not being organized. What else? Not following up on people who say, I was at the trail at the time of the murders, according to the piece of paper that says 1:30 to 3:30 by the conservation officer. Hi, Philip. So when does the court case get into full swing? Jury selection Monday, May 13th. The following Thursday should be the opening statements. It's supposed to be over by May 31st, but I don't know. I will be doing at least nightly updates, unfortunately, of whatever, like the main points that happened that day. If it is allowed to be live streamed, I will do a live stream all day, every day, unfortunately. But I might do like the first part of the day, members only. We'll see, and then public in the afternoon. Hi, Cece. Considering that the public only ever knows about 5% of what is actually going on regarding evidence, what do you think will be presented to incriminate Rick? I think there might be a lot of stuff that we're not thinking of. Like what, Tom? I don't know. I mean, I've wondered, like, should I just start rambling? No. The defense said Rick went to the trails often. We also know Dave and Dan McCain were very involved with the trail system and would go to the trails often. So will they testify, either for the prosecution or the defense, that they would see Rick there often? Where would his car park? At CPS, at Mears, or the Hoosier Heartland Highway one in the top left, whatever, northwest? What will they say about seeing Rick on the trails after the murders happen? I don't know. Would you think that if Rick never showed up at the trails after the murders, would that make you think he's more likely to be guilty? I've said before, I think the most interesting thing, or one of the most interesting things I'm looking to see if they were able to get it, is Rick's car data. If it shows he was there 1:30 to 4, he's screwed. Obviously, if it showed that he was there noon to 1:30, he'd be home, wherever that is now. But if they were not able to get that data from 5.5 years ago, were they able to get it for 6 months to a year before October 2022 when he was arrested and they got possession of his car? Were they able to show, did Rick and his Ford Focus ever go to the trails? If not, as a member of the jury, I'm not going to say that he's guilty for not going there, but why would this man go to the trails often and then never go? For your other stuff, there's so many other things that might incriminate Rick, and there might be some things that show that he's innocent. There are things that show that he's innocent. His DNA is not at the crime scene, but apparently somebody else's was. How is the prosecution going to explain that away if they're saying that Rick is the killer? I don't know. Hi, Drew Beefy. Thank you again. Thank you for not cursing. How does the court find untainted jurors on high prolific cases like this? OBJ? What is that? Everyone seems, what? DBJ? I can't see what you wrote there. Everyone seems to know about this case. Same with Brian Koberger case. My mom does not know how to turn on a computer or really use her cell phone. It's the same thing with her brother. Like, there are people in Allen County who maybe have only seen like a basic overview of this case on the nightly news. So all of us know all these various facts, but there are people in Allen County, Indiana, who hopefully are open-minded and not biased. The 600 people were sent these questionnaires. Another thing I learned is that I think I already knew this, the defense and the prosecution are going to review these responses to the questionnaires, which isn't there a problem with like the postal service not delivering on time? So Baldwin and Rosie and McClelland need to agree on, I guess, at least 12 people. I don't know if there's 6 alternates or more. So there are not going to be people on this jury that McClelland, Baldwin, and Rosie did not approve ahead of time. We'll see if people actually lied. Hopefully there will not be any kind of juror shenanigans. Like, I don't know, they're going to be sequestered in a hotel and not supposed to be talking maybe to family members for almost 3 weeks, not to be looking on the internet, not to be researching this case, not to be joining my live chats. We'll see. I'm 40 minutes behind. Let me scroll. Scrolling. Hi, Priscilla of Boston. Does the defense have to prove what they have alleged in court? Did Travis reply to this, or DNA King? It'll be interesting to see what from these filings ends up being presented in court at the trial. You guys were talking about Rick and his alcohol consumption. Stargirl said some people that drink too much get a big belly due to a fatty liver. Thank you for sharing. You guys were talking, I'm at the section where you guys were talking about why Rick would lose 40 pounds in 5 months. People want to see video of Rick in a cell doing inappropriate things. I don't want to see that. High caricature contest. Hi, Brandy. Brandy thinks maybe Rick went crazy seeing what his new possible forever home could look like. I'm waiting for the trial, but am leaning more towards guilt than innocence. I agree with the end part of that statement. It just seems to me like there are more things pointing towards his guilt than innocence at this point. However, if it turns out that he even admits to it and explains everything, it's just going to be shocking to me that this 44-year-old man who was married to his wife for 25 years, the next day was Valentine's Day. He lives in the small town, works at the like a very customer-facing location business in this small town. Like, how did he get to this point in his life that he thought this was a good idea? So I still don't think that his face jumps out to me in the Bridge Guy video, but I think the body type and the small feet of Bridge Guy do match up to Rick's body. I'm still waiting to hear more about his like voice to see if it matches Bridge Guy. Hi, 50 Shades of Faye. Thank you all for joining, especially like the repeat people who always come back and share your opinions. I'm looking for some more opinions right now. Easton. I can imagine Judge Diener is feeling pretty swell right now after avoiding this mess. I know, right? I said he's like the smartest person in this case. Get me out of here. Hi, Peter. I'll try one more time. What did you? I don't know. This is my first time saying this. Given that you maintain the position that defense needs to prove that various facts are false, etc., how can anyone expect for Rick to receive a fair trial? I'm most concerned about what facts are there from the state of Indiana showing or proving beyond a reasonable doubt that Rick was Bridge Guy. That's my main concern. Also, how will the defense go against that? The defense has said in different filings there is significant evidence that these Odinists, more specifically the ones with the initials BH and PW, that they are involved in the murders. So at the trial, are they going to present significant evidence? I have not seen significant evidence that points more towards those men being at the trail and in the woods that day at 2 p.m., more so than I've seen pointing towards Rick. So I understand that the prosecution has to prove that Rick is guilty, and the defense does not have to prove that Rick is innocent. I doubt Rick is going to get on the stand and testify. Hi, Tony. Yeah, I can't wait for finally, hopefully, some facts to actually be revealed. Yeah, please be polite to each other. If not, moderators feel free to click a name and write or select hide from channel. 5 less viewers is not something I care about. Hi, Francis. I feel like your controlled hello. I feel like your controlled scenario of sexual assault is probably the most spot on theory. I agree with this quite heavily, but I believe Rick could have made a false confession with a false cause of death. Yeah, I've said before, if he truly did go there often, did he like develop some kind of motive? Like he wanted to see teenage girls do sexual stuff, but he was concerned that if he touched them himself, his DNA would transfer. So he wanted two girls to do stuff to each other. And even if they were not assaulted, let's say Abby and Libby, was that the motive and somehow it went wrong? I don't know. I don't know that we'll ever know a motive if Rick truly is Bridge Guy. Not a Richard Allen simp. Are you attending the trial? No, I'm not. Thank you for asking. Yeah, I never saw an answer from a defense attorney in chat. Bob says Bald and Rosie coached Rick to start acting crazy. It makes total sense with how unscrupulous they've acted so far. I want to know from a defense attorney, if you found out that your client called his wife and said incriminating statements, would you like, is it ethical like to tell your client, all right, if you want to be found not guilty, you're going to have to start making even more confessions, but like make it to a bunch of different people, but start including facts that do not make sense and start acting odd? I don't know. Anybody in the comments here or after this chat ends in 29 minutes left? That's it. All right. If anybody could like, who's a defense attorney or knows somebody can maybe say, is this a strategy by defense attorneys to say, start acting crazy and start confessing even more, but with false facts? Hi, Charles. Thank you. Peter says, I don't think anyone thinks he's innocent. Our grievances are with all of the barbecue sauce, lies, and stomping on the process. Well, there are quite a few people who do think Rick is innocent. I don't think anybody should be saying 100% they know Rick is innocent or guilty without seeing everything presented at the trial. And yes, I agree. Like the process that are followed and not followed in Indiana are a little bit out of control. You were not blocked or muted as far as I know. She Elf, prison experts, do you think they really had other inmates watching Rick? I've never heard of that. Well, we did hear about that, She Elf. Do you not watch my live chats? They're called companions, where other inmates, I think, who are qualified and act normally in prison are given the opportunity to sit outside of somebody's cell who is suicidal and just like keep a watch on them. So I guess guards do not have to do it. According to the defense, in early April, after Rick started making these comments about that were incriminating statements, at least two of these inmates were then telling their family members what Rick said. And I guess at that point, Westville said, you need to be replaced with guards. We'll see. Sorry, somebody outside is yelling. I'm not sure what's going on. Do I need to investigate? Hi, Gia. I believe the state will call the whole thing off at the last minute if they can't figure out a way to delay it any further. Well, it seems to me like Holman and McClelland feel like they have enough to charge with Rick with murder. So I would say I disagree with you that the prosecution does not have enough evidence, or they feel like they don't. We'll see what they have at the trial. Hi, Nicole. Does anyone know if a mask was found when they confiscated evidence from Rick's house or in the woods? A mask was not listed in the items taken from his house. Only like various hats, including like skull caps and stuff. Courtney, over by May 31st, not 21st. Sorry. Hi, TJ. Oops. Rick is bridge guy. Pretty hard to beat that, unless he's the most unlucky dude to ever exist. I'm waiting to hear his voice and to see anything else that the prosecution is going to show that Rick truly was there from 1:30 to 3:30 or 4. Obviously, it seems more like 4 if he was bridge guy. However, how did he or the bridge guy get from the crime scene to CPS? If you've seen my video, how did Richard Allen not see the 4 girls or bridge guy? I have a lot of questions how Rick supposedly was on the trails 12:30 to 1:30 on the trail on platform 1 of the bridge, and then he said he sat on a bench. Yet there were 4 girls on the trail probably at least by 12:30 until at least around 1:30, because they took photos of the bridge at 12:43 and bench number 2 at 1:26. How does he not see these 4 girls? He said he saw 3 girls when he arrived around noon, which would have been around 12:05 at the start of the trail. Hi, Cindy. I don't think the defense found an expert to say what they want them to do. Hence, they need more money. If the prosecution brings the FBI as an expert, who are Baldwin and Rosie trying to get? MI6? There's not been a ton of information revealed about these experts. I know I was looking in a recent filing. The prosecution is going to have a I don't want to say ballistics, but a forensics gun expert. They also have some people talking about cell phone data. We'll see what else. I think there might be somebody about to go against the Odinism angle by the defense. So there are a lot of experts by the prosecution. So as I said before, I think the defense should have access to funding for their own experts to go against whatever the prosecution might present. High Witch, in my opinion, even without the confessions or bullet evidence, he is bridge guy. Far too many logical coincidences are at play here. I agree, there are a lot of coincidences, and I don't think the confessions or the bullet evidence are needed to get a guilty verdict. I think the police are outside talking to a crazy woman. I'm busy at a live chat. I can't investigate. How much more time? 22 more minutes. Anna has always wondered what would happen if a guilty person confessed, but provided crazy details that were all wrong for the crime. We might be seeing something like that. Well, we have to wait and see what these other confessions included. The defenses are the only people who have said there were false facts included. What else could he have said that may have been closer to the truth? Gia, they probably lost all the video from the prison. I'm curious to know who goes through all that 24 hours of surveillance from every single day to see what Rick is up to. It seems like Rick he made this phone call April 3rd, and the next day, at least Baldwin went to the prison. So I don't know how quick, like somebody from the prison said, oh, homeboy just called his wife and confessed to McClelland. And then McClelland called Baldwin and said, your client just confessed. I don't know how that all works. Mustang says, if they were going to set up some random person for this, why wait over 6 years? They had plenty of pieces of S to choose from, potential suspects. I agree. I don't think Rick is what they call a patsy, which is like somebody who is falsely accused of doing this. It does not make sense to me when you add up everything. Hi, CJK. Alan is a manipulator. He's not some fool drooling in the corner unless the camera is on. I think it's interesting that we've never really learned who this man, Richard Allen, is, what his personality is. It seemed like from the very few photos and videos his wife posted on Facebook, she seemed to be happy to be in a marriage with him for 25 years. So I said he did not really show the same enthusiasm as her. He only smiled in one photo that I've seen, which wasn't even on her Facebook. That does not mean that he's guilty of this crime. I'm just saying that we don't know, like, if he is capable of doing this. Which makes a very good point. How did no one want to go back and review the first week's interviews for months? Not for months, but for 5.5 years. And even Holman said in certain interviews, like his biggest fear is that they missed something. He also said, I'm almost certain he said they go back and they look at stuff from the beginning. So how did they miss this 74th tip in the FBI system? Why on the first year anniversary, the second year, third year anniversary, did they not say, all right, let's go look at the first 500 tips in FBI Orion system? Number 74, it says this man was at the trails 1:30 to 3:30. We know 2:13 is the bridge guy video. I don't know. As somebody said before, I think there needs to be an investigation of this actual investigation, not just internal for Indiana State Police, but some external company to be like, here's how you screwed up. Here's a way to better organize your investigation. Hi, Ben. Hi, Roman. I'm so curious what his daughter thinks of all this. I'm not concerned that she's not showing up to court hearings. I don't think anybody really would want to be on TV, on the nightly news in Indiana, and have your coworkers be like, "Oh my God, that's your dad." However, I don't know where her husband and they moved. I'm not sure if they're even in the area now. I don't think it's a signal of whether she thinks he's guilty or not that she has not shown up to the hearings so far. Beach Girl, why do you always talk about how much time is left for your show? It's not a show, it's a train wreck. Because I'm anxiously awaiting when I can be excused. I just want to give people an idea of like how much time is left. Somebody said one time, like I started a chat, and at 59 seconds, I said, "All right, how much more time do I have to do this?" We're at an hour and 42 minutes. I'm trying to like stop around 1 hour and 59 minutes each chat. Again, I'm doing these every weekend. Member chats on Saturdays, public on Sundays, 4:30 Eastern start time. All of them will start with summaries of legal filings from the past week. It does. I finally learned something. It means in high definition. Oh, thank you. I thought I was being funny, but apparently, as usual, I'm not. All right, I'm way far behind. Let me skip some stuff. Hi, Xtina. Did you have a good vacation? Sparky, you can get this shirt at in the description below. It has a link to my store. I have not worn it in public yet. I'm scared. What's this Luther Vandross detective agency? It's a joke, people. Calm down. All right, let me skip a bunch more. Sorry. Yeah, sorry, I missed a bunch of comments, so I apologize if I did not get to yours. I literally missed hundreds of them. Hi, Sassfire. A lot of people don't watch the news or follow true crime. I know many of the people in my life have no ideas about this case and others like it. Yeah, there have been people who've said they have met people from Indiana, like who have visited other states, and they say, "Oh, what do you think about the Delphi murders?" And the people from Indiana are like, "What's that? I don't know what it is." And didn't Kelsey, Libby's sister, say she went to Purdue University in Indiana, and people on the campus, the students, did not even know much about the case, which was quite a while ago when she was in college. Hi, Sub Rosa, correcting Tom. Gull did not set a limit on the length of the trial. She estimated how long it would take. You guys put words in people's mouths and then get triggered. Oh, sorry. Yeah, my case is a website for Indiana court cases, and you can see like the latest filings. And as of right now, it has May 13th to the 31st blocked off. As I said before, it's Monday through Saturdays, 9 a.m. to 5 p.m. I'm not sure about a lunch break. Hi, Team USA. What do you think about those new track and field outfits for the Olympics? The Odinism theory is wild. Well, 3 police officers thought it was true. Defense is trying anything at this point. The murder sheet was confident in Kegan Klein shaking my head. Well, it seems like the murder sheet was maybe getting information from police. who were confident that Kagan was involved. Kagan still has not been arrested or charged for anything with Delphi. So it seemed to me like law enforcement was totally clueless about who the killer was. And part of the reason why I think Rick might be guilty is it does seem like for 5.5 years, law enforcement looked into everybody, not everybody, I don't want to exaggerate, looked into quite a few different men as bridge guy. They never found enough evidence to charge anybody for 5.5 years until they finally looked at Richard Allen a second time, or the first time, essentially. Before I remembered, I thought of something, then I forgot. I finally remembered it. There's been a variety of rumors about when Rick, let me sit down, 13 more minutes. There's been a variety of rumors of when Rick talked to the conservation officer and how that happened. The defense said that Rick called the tip line or something, which was not set up for a few days, I think. Excuse me. Why am I saying this? Because if Rick called the tip line or the police, is there a note that says this man, Richard Allen, called and said he was at the trails? So like what led up to a meeting at the grocery store with this conservation officer? Is there a note from that first phone call? And so obviously law enforcement is not good at notes and keeping a log of who called. But in that first phone call, did Rick say, I was there 1:30 to 3:30 before it was known that this 213 video started? That has not been referenced in any kind of public filing. I don't know. We'll see. Yes, good point. Hi, Wearing Midnight. I'm looking forward to this trial. Abby and Libby need justice. Yes, hopefully they will finally get it after 7 years. Hi, Tiff. I appreciate you, but I totally disagree with you on this. Not to bang on this old drum again, but Ron Logan's voice sounded exactly like Bridge Guy to me. Sorry, it's okay. We can agree to disagree. Do you have a 77-year-old person in your life? Can you call them? Do they sound like a grandma or grandpa? No offense to, I know there's some people here who are in their 70s. Hi, thank you for staying and watching. To me, Bridge Guy does not sound like a grandpa. Ron Logan did. I do not think Ron Logan's voice sounded like Bridge Guy. Also, have you seen the transfer station video from around 11:55 a.m. to noon? Ron is wearing boots up to almost halfway up to his knees. He's wearing dark, like very dark jeans. Bridge Guys are faded. He's wearing a jacket that does not match Bridge Guy's. He's not wearing any kind of head covering. Bridge Guy was. Ron's wife said he was afraid of heights. So, yeah, I've said before, I don't think Ron was Bridge Guy. Whether he was involved in another way, I don't know for sure, but I'm pretty sure he was not Bridge Guy. Yeah, this is a good point. CJK. Allen won't speak in court unless he absolutely must. We've never heard him speak publicly, other than the ski lift with his wife, where he's like, "There's a wheelchair coming up," but he will have to sit there and listen to the horrific details of what he did. That should haunt him for the rest of his days. Haunt anyone. If Rick is guilty, and this trial is coming up closer and closer, and he knows there are certain facts that are going to be revealed, will he maybe finally do a plea deal because he does not want his wife and mom sitting 10 feet behind him hearing these facts that he knows are true? I'm saying if he is guilty, which I still have not made up a final decision. But is that something that might come to his mind, that he does not want his wife sitting right next to him or right behind him as some of these details are being revealed that he knows are true? Nine more minutes. And I'm only 20 minutes behind. All right, let me skip some more. Sparky. Who saw any of the accused? Are you talking about the Odinist? Oh, yeah. Who saw any of the Odinists accused by the defense at the trails that horrific day? Some people said that maybe this EF guy who lived 2 hours away, but he said he did not have a car. After the Franks memo came out on Facebook, he posted a a post. That's what posts are done. They're posted. He said something like, "What did I do? Ride a turtle 2 hours to Delphi?" To me, after this Franks memo came out in September 18th, 2023, at least 4 of the guys who were accused online, they wrote posts that were more angry at Baldwin and Rosie for including their names, which obviously Baldwin and Rosie only had access to their names based on law enforcement investigations. But they did not seem like scared that they're going to be arrested for the Delphi murders. And it's now been like 6 months or more since that filing, and none of those Odinists have been arrested. Beach Girl, hardly anyone will get a seat at the trial. Yeah, I heard that Carroll County Courthouse is very small. There might be 35 to 40 seats for the public. Everyone and their mama, especially from Delphi, will want to get in. Yes. Tiff, I pray Libby's video shows Bridge Guy's face clearly and that we can tell yes or no it was Richard Allen. I don't think so, because I would imagine they would have released that if it was better than from whatever 60 feet away. However, where was Libby's hand? Was it in front of her waist, at the side of her leg or something? What on Bridge Guy might match up to clothing taken from Rick's house? I don't think Rick ever wore a wedding ring in any of the photos I saw. So I don't know if Bridge Guy, you can see his hands. Is there a certain belt he is wearing that matched up to something Richard Allen owned? Is that brown thing a sweatshirt? Because I don't think there was any brown sweatshirts or shirts taken from Rick's house. Is it a fanny pack? I don't know. We'll see. Or not. Uh-oh. What? Oh. You had an attorney comment that they would indeed tell their client to make more confessions, but with false statements. All right, thank you. Understand, Blue. I sent you an email. You have not replied about how to show emojis in StreamYard. Hi, Miss North's musings. I think Rick is guilty and will really be sad if the girls get no justice because of this crap show everyone has created. I totally agree with that, or at least the second part. If he abused other girls, that should be out. Also, how do we know his DNA isn't there? In the Franks memo, Baldwin and Rosie said they deposed Jerry Holman, who's like one of the lead investigators from Indiana State Police. And he admitted that Rick's DNA was not a match to the crime scene, which a lot of people have pointed out when McClelland said on November 22nd, 2023, to Judge Gull that he did not want the PCA released. It was because he thought there's good reason to believe there might be other actors involved in this heinous crime or something like that. Was that because they already got Rick's DNA back from whatever the lab and it did not match the crime scene? So they thought maybe Rick was Bridge Guy, but maybe somebody else killed them. However, in January of this year, on the 18th, right after the Supreme Court said Baldwin and Rosie need to come back home, McClelland filed these upgraded charges, which are saying that Rick is the killer. What evidence is he going to present to show that? Hi, Rose. Rose disagrees. These attorneys would never tell him to act anyway. We have like 5 minutes. Let me do 3 more comments. Scrolling. Hi, commentator Root. How come in the video we don't hear the girls? If someone told me down the hill with a gun, knife, whatever, I would yell something. It's been referenced that I think maybe Sergeant Kim Riley said he saw the video and the look of fear on at least one of the girls' faces, possibly Abby, because I guess if Libby was videotaping it, it's probably Abby. It was so unsettling to see like the look of fear about they thought what they were afraid was about to happen. Um, from what I've heard, these are just rumors. Bridge guy comes up to them and says, maybe, hey, guys, and or no, he says guys, because they're maybe like talking. Abby and Libby were trying to find out a way to get away from this man who was coming towards them. And he said maybe guys louder to interrupt them talking to get their attention. And then he says down the hill. If you go to the Indiana State Police website, there is an audio file, which I've shown previously and reviewed. I feel like I hear Abby say like Libby in between like the static between, it's the version where it's guys static down the hill. If you wear earbuds and like turn it up loud, I don't know. I think there's a young girl sound that sounds like Libby, but from what I've heard, that's not on the actual file. So who knows why law enforcement even included that static in what they released. Stay tuned for the trial. Like one more minute. Thank you all for joining. I'll see most of you, I guess, maybe in a week. What's going to happen this week? I don't know. Maybe McClelland will reply to this motion and reveal some more information about Rick's quote unquote confessions. You Can't Handle the Truth is a military movie with Jack Nicholson. I forget what it was. Tom Cruise. What was it? I'm old, sorry. Annie says, given the amount of evidence, which we don't even know what it is, and how high profile and heinous the crime was, I don't think the state will even offer a deal. From what I've heard, the state would talk to Abby and Libby's families to see if they were okay with it. As I've said before, my main concern is identifying Bridge Guy and holding him accountable. So if Rick says, I'm Bridge Guy, I'm willing to spend my life in prison, is that what the families want? Hi, Alec. Thank you as always. Enjoying your continued coverage as always. Thank you. I'm still puzzled by the notion that Rick would, if truly Bridge Guy, bring his knife, gun with him on this random walk, just in case he saw a possible victim. I agree. And I was thinking the other day, even if Rick is Bridge Guy, this plan or motive really only works in the winter. Because if it's in the summertime and there are items stuffed into his jacket, where would he like hold rope or any other kind of items that he used in this crime? But that's a good point, Alex. And like, did anybody else from this town of Delphi see Rick on the trails previously acting creepy or by himself? What is his wife going to say about how often she went with him to the trails? I don't know. We'll see or not. Oh, I went over 2 hours. All right, I'll go a few more minutes. I missed my 1 hour and 59-minute deadline. All right, I'll go 10 more minutes. Yay, not. Aloha, Kevin. Somebody remind me when 10 minutes is over, but I'm behind 20 minutes. Kevin, aloha. Rick gets his trial and is found guilty. Yay. All of us who followed this case for years, we lose each other. And the crazy intrigue of this case that we've all yearned for is gone. I mean, none of us would be here right now wasting our time if we had all the answers to this case. I don't think all the answers will be revealed to every single question we have at the trial. But as I just said, and I say repeatedly, hopefully the answer of who was Bridge Guy will finally be revealed after 7 years. Yeah, this is a good point about items in Bridge Guy's jacket and talking about was this like Alex said, was this planned? What would you plan to do if you were going to do this crime? Would you bring gloves? I don't think a Bridge Guy has gloves in his on his hands when he's in Libby's video, but who knows? Commentator Root, if he had no gloves on, there would be DNA. So did he wear gloves? For those of you who have been here many times, when we've seen these photos of these items in the creek, Libby's tie-dye shirt, another item in the middle, and then on the right in this photo is a black and white Nike sneaker belonging to Libby. Why were those found there? I've speculated, and I'm probably wrong. Did Bridge Guy feel like his DNA got on those items of clothing? And his thought was, I need to go to the creek and dunk them under the water, and he let them go all at the same time, essentially. That is why all three of them got stuck in the same area of the creek. And there was one other item, like a sock or something somewhere else. It'll be interesting to find out if law enforcement finally determined who that DNA belonged to. And is that why they feel comfortable saying that Rick was the killer? Annie says a defense attorney is never going to tell their client to lie. Sassfire, if someone has a question regarding other videos or cases Tom has covered, Tom has only covered Missy Beavers, which April 18th is the 8-year anniversary of that being unsolved. Is it allowed in this chat of his lives like this one? I prefer to keep this about Delphi because most people are here to talk about Delphi. But if you want to talk about Missy Beavers, just write a comment under that video and hopefully I'll get a notification. Sometimes I don't get notifications. Lala says Rick would not admit being the unaliver, as that would make him guilty as well. So we'll have to wait and see if he'll finally come clean when it looks like he'll take the fall alone. Well, why did McClelland say Rick admitted several times he killed Abby and Libby? Hi, Malibu. What is on the rest of the 43-second video? I don't know. Because Bridge Guy is like somewhat far away from them as they're like towards the end of the trail. So it takes a while for him to get near them, say, guys. Abby's mom said, one of the girls said something like, or yeah. And then he says, go down the hill. And according to, I think it's the Ron Logan search warrant, or maybe even the Frank's memo, once he says go down the hill, they start to go down the hill and the video ends. Did Libby push a button on the side of her phone to stop the video? Or did she completely turn it off? Because a lot of us have wondered when her dad called at 3:11 and 3:14, did Bridge Guy or whoever was at the crime scene hear that and also see on this phone, Libby's phone, that it said dad is calling at 3:11 and then 3 minutes later at 3:14? Did that stop this person from doing whatever with the branches and other stuff at the crime scene? Gia says, the police tell us all the time that without details only the killer would know, a confession cannot be taken seriously. Yes, I have heard that. However, as a member of a jury, if 10 people get on the stand and say, this man said he was involved, that's not really pointing towards innocence to me. Also, when the phone calls with his wife is synced up with the video from his cell, not cell phone, his prison cell, how is that going to be showing whether he's innocent or guilty? I think it's not just clear cut Like, just because he does not say certain facts, that means he's making it up or something. Hi, Vicky. Thank you for your Canadian money. Hi, Annie. Thank you for being a member. I'll see you next Saturday at 4:30 Eastern for the member chat, where I get to every single comment and I don't miss hundreds of them. Yes, A Few Good Men. I missed that. That was the movie. I'll go a few more minutes. Oh my gosh. I'm okay. I'll do a few more minutes. Thank you, commentator. I'm trying. Priscilla says, I've never followed a case this closely. Me neither. I think about it every damn day. My kids were the same age as Abby and Libby. I hope they can get beyond reasonable doubt. Well, hopefully they're going to figure out one way or another, the jury, is Rick guilty or innocent? One final comment. What will it be? What have we not talked about? All right, I guess we'll do this one. Miss North's musings. I think Rick slipped through the cracks with that initial interview. I think he hid in plain sight, watching and covering based upon the absurd, ridiculous nature of the way this case has been handled. Well, it's also going to come up by the defense saying Rick worked in a public place at CVS Pharmacy, where you would think that these 4 girls who passed Bridge Guy around 1:30 would have said, that's the guy I saw on the trails, if these 4 girls go to CVS. Are these girls going to be asked at the to testify at the trial and say, I'm sure the defense is going to say, how many times did you go to CVS Pharmacy between 2017 and October 2022? Do you ever recall seeing the defendant over there? What if one of these girls said, yes, I did see him, but I did not think he was Bridge Guy? Because from what we've heard, it's not been in a court filing, but some guy, Doug Rice, who talked to one of these girls, the girl who said hi to Bridge Guy, she told him, or actually, I guess he sent a photo to the girl's mom of a local pedophile called Jimmy Dale Duval, D-A-L-E is the middle name. And the girl said, yes, that did match the guy, or resemble the guy I passed. We passed around 1:30, who essentially was Bridge Guy. So it's going to be interesting to see at the trial what these girls say about who they saw at 1:30-ish, and if they went to CVS. Also, what is the defense going to say and the prosecution going to say about the younger guy sketch? I'm sure the defense is going to say Richard Allen looks nothing like Justin Timberlake. So stay tuned for the trial. Thank you, everybody. We're at 2 hours and 10 minutes. Again, I'm doing these every weekend up until the trial, so I'll be making my PowerPoint slides if there are any legal filings this week. Thank you for joining all around the world and sharing your thoughts, and hopefully this is headed to getting justice for Abby and Libby. Thank you. Goodbye.